This week, Elon Musk is shaking up Washington, challenging the very fabric of political norms as he's flexing his influence alongside President-elect Trump. What does this mean for the future of governance? And as Congress teetered on the brink of shutdown, Musk's vocal opposition to the bipartisan spending bill raises question about accountability and power in American politics. Are we witnessing the rise of a new political order? You don't want to miss it. Welcome to the Brian Nichols Show.
Instead of focusing on winning arguments, we're teaching the basic fundamentals of sales and marketing and how we can use them to win in the world of politics, teaching you how to meet people where they're at on the issues they care about. Welcome to the Brian Nichols Show.
Well, happy Saturday there, folks. I knocked over my microphone. We are live as we are airing here, yes, live on X for our AMP America Week in Review. Do not adjust your screens. This is not Santa Claus. This is Brian from the Brian Nichols Show. I know, very confusing. We got a little bit different of a layout here for the show going forward, so hope you guys enjoy that. And a lot to unpack today. All things around the idea of President Musk. Yeah. This past week, with all the insanity over on Capitol Hill, we got to discuss all that and more. So joining me to help me do just that, our good buddy Remso Martinez. Remso, welcome back to the show. How you doing, buddy?
Ho, ho, ho. Oh, we're missing our machine guns. That sounds weird when I try and say it like, I try to say it like Bruce Willis. It's like, ho, 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 I've got a machine gun. But now I've just messed it up. We should probably restart.
It's okay, Remso. I'll forgive you because 'tis the season. No, Remso, it's okay. This is the season of perpetual hope, of perpetual forgiveness. So right now, if there's ever a time to flub up, this is the time to do so because we will forgive you no matter what.
I didn't realize it was this close to Christmas until like last Saturday.
Uh-oh. Did you do your shopping yet?
So this was really weird. This is the first Christmas that my wife and I are not traveling back to the East Coast to spend time with family. And because we've been like super busy, what we were doing a lot of was, and I mean, it's different. Maybe if we had kids, it would be a little bit different, but we were like, hey, what do you want for Christmas? She'd tell me, I'd order it and it'd arrive like the next day. So we really didn't, prep a lot because anything either of us wanted, which wasn't much, we just go ahead and order it for each other so we could have it now. And My wife and I have this agreement that, it's like we don't have to worry about getting anything ready for Christmas Day. It's like we're adults, we can make it work. We're busy. But last week, we were just looking at our calendar and we were talking to clients and other people. And we were like, everyone's taking the week of Christmas off. How many weeks away is that? And then we were like, oh, it's next week. So, we're a bit drowsy because we've been burning the midnight oil. Like, let's get ahead. Let's try and do as much stuff as possible so we can try and take the entire week off, which I have not taken more than like 2 days off, including weekends, in a very long time. So,
dude, you've been going hard in the paint. Like you were doing all the PA chase, all the AMP America stuff. Like, I don't know how you've been finding time to breathe on top of your marketing stuff.
It's, it's fun. And it's, I worked for a company that actually had a lot of very generous vacation days provided, not including PTO. And I was talking to my wife last night. I'm like, you know what? Like, I really miss that place. They're no longer around. But I was like, I miss that place. They would give me so much time off. It was one of those few tech companies where if you wanted to take like a full month off with your PTO, you could theoretically do that. They were great, and not many companies do that. I was very thankful. It was a digital publishing company. And, it's just like, we can make these decisions now. So even though we work hard, we, try and play hard when we can with stuff. So, it's one of those nice things as an entrepreneur and as somebody that can, have the flexibility, and sometimes I call it the inflexibility, but I can make that choice. So it's like, it's like, I'm tired, but I can, if I don't want to work on the week of Christmas, I don't have to. I just have to make it work. So, it's I'm very blessed. I'm trying to be thankful for what I do have this Christmas. I posted on LinkedIn, and there's a total diversion that I like Thanksgiving more than Christmas. And when I say Christmas, I mean like Coca-Cola Santa Christmas, not like baby Jesus, the real reason behind Christmas, the actual reason for Christmas. But I like Thanksgiving because you get to chill out, eat food, and you're supposed to just be thankful for what you have. And my problem is like, unlike Bill O'Reilly, who is always like the war on Christmas. I always felt like the real war was the war on Thanksgiving. And now the Christmas prep season almost starts like on the day after Halloween.
Yeah,
it's like we don't even like to acknowledge Thanksgiving except on Thanksgiving Day because it's still a federal holiday. So I challenge people. It's like, if you're not religious or if you don't really think about it, at least go into Christmas with that Thanksgiving spirit of like, be thankful for what you have and be joyous for what you've been able to accomplish another year. Like,
amen.
Let's be merry.
Well, and speaking of Remso, this is what we call a segue in the industry. By the way, we are live here on X, so if you are joining us here on X today, thank you for joining us. Thank you for spending your Saturday afternoon with Remso and I for our AMP America Week in Review. Head down below to the comments. Let us know your thoughts on today's topics of conversation, which, speaking back, here we go, full circle, what to be thankful for. And I think it's important to understand what we are thankful for, Remso, by sometimes acknowledging what could have been, right? The other parallel universe. Google just announced that they have that brand new AI chip that can like go dip into parallel universes, more or less, whatever the hell it was. It was a whole thing. So check that out. But here's a parallel universe. What if, right? Joe Biden, not Joe Biden. That's right. I forgot that ding dong. His brain's dead. Kamala Harris. What if she had in fact won back in November? And here's a quick clip that was shared over on X from Elon Musk. It was Mark Andreessen talking about a chat that he and a bunch of business and tech leaders had it with the White House back before the election, talking about AI. And Remso, again, let's paint this parallel universe. This is what could have been and why we are so thankful that Kamala Harris did not win back in November. Let's take a listen.
We had meetings in DC in May where we talked to them about this, and the meetings were absolutely horrifying. And we came out basically deciding we had to endorse Trump.
What did you hear in those meetings?
AI is a technology basically that the government is going to completely control. This is not going to be a startup thing. They actually said flat out to us, don't do AI startups. Like don't fund AI startups. It's not something that we're going to allow to happen. They're not going to be allowed to exist. There's no point. They basically said AI is going to be a game of 2 or 3 big companies working closely with the government, and we're going to be.
By the way, right there, does that sound familiar to folks? 2 or 3 big tech companies working with the government, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Before, we found all the Twitter files and all the bullshit from behind the scenes. But I mean, this is the playbook, right? So just let's pay attention to how the government was going to try to leverage this for AI.
Basically wrap them in I'm paraphrasing, but we're going to basically wrap them in a government cocoon. We're going to protect them from competition. We're going to control them, and we're going to dictate what they do. And then I said, I don't understand how you're going to lock this down so much, because like the math for, AI is like out there and it's being taught everywhere. And, they literally said, during the Cold War, we classified entire areas of physics and took them out of the research community, and like entire branches of physics basically went dark and didn't proceed. And that if we decide we need to, we're going to do the same thing to the math underneath AI.
Wow.
And I said, I've just learned 2 very important things, because I wasn't aware of the former, and I wasn't aware that you were, even conceiving of doing it to the latter.
So I talk fast. I had to double check and make sure that we weren't on like 1.5 speed there with Mark Andreessen, because he talks a lot faster than me.
Very fast.
I looked and I was like, did I put this on 1.5 or like 1.75 speed or something? Nope, that's just how Mark talks. But Remso, this again sounds spookily, creepily similar to what we saw happen back during COVID, right? And this was the manifestation of everything back during COVID, but how we got to where we were, where government basically was saying, all right, Facebook, all right, Twitter, we're going to dictate what you are allowing on your platforms. And we're not going to say it overtly. We're just going to, give guidelines, give recommendations, give suggestions. And with those suggestions, you can do what you want, right? But we're going to definitely nudge you which way we think you should go, which, that sounds a little problematic. Are we allowed to use that word problematic anymore? But Remso, like this sounds very similar, right, to what we saw happen during COVID, but with AI. And I just got to say it, Remso, I think the ramifications of government getting its dirty, rotten fingers into the AI world might even be worse than what we saw back with social media and the government interventions there. What say you?
Do you, there's a tool that I started using, which has completely replaced Google for me. It's called Perplexity.
Love me some Perplexity.
Perplexity, for those of you that don't know, Perplexity is like the premier AI search engine, which is available at its pro level for like $20 a month. And I want to emphasize, like, a lot of these AI tools, people get confused because they don't do their research, but they're very inexpensive. They're meant to be for the consumer level. And one of the reasons why is because they know that if you lower the barrier to entry and you have a wider pool of customers, what you've basically done is you've widened your research. You've widened your research pool. So you're teaching it, you're instructing it, you're helping these companies collect data. That's why these tools are so cheap. And Perplexity is a tool that I did not learn about until like early November. It was my wife who discovered it watching YouTube. And I went on it for 5 minutes and immediately was like, we need this. So I went ahead and bought the pro version. And 2 years ago, at that company, that digital publishing company I was at, we were going through some very significant budget cuts. We had to slash a lot of our writers. It was a company that managed a bunch of different publications. And it got to the point where I was basically told, you need to keep up output of content across all of these different sites that we have. And you need to not spend any more money, which was funny because they basically took away all the money I could have spent on it. So what I started using at the time, it was Chat 3.0. And I was using that to help draft content really fast. And I was basically able to put out the output of like 5 or 6 writers on a couple specific sites. And I was actually able to help us use these tools to create custom GPTs, to create draft writers for other websites that were inactive because we didn't have people for it, because we didn't have money to pay them. And we went on our monthly meeting and a lot of the editors were panicking. And they did not like that I brought any of this in. But the reason why I did was because I was trying to teach them. I'm like, guys, it's here. I'm figuring this out. I know our competitors are figuring this out. We either figure it out together now and we keep our jobs and we secure our company, or we go out of business. But one of the most important things that came out of that was the ability to create real-time news coverage stories. So I'm going to go ahead and give people some free advice.
Do it.
If you want to go ahead and put together a very, very concrete, very good grounding for a thesis or for a news story or for a long form piece, what you do is you go to Perplexity. You start searching within Perplexity the questions you want answered. You follow the AI recommended prompts that follow that initial search sequence. You then copy and paste all of that into Chat 4.0. And then you give it your tone, your desired outcome, the purpose, and the audience, and the word count. And then what you do is you take all of that, you put it onto a Google Doc, and maybe people have less steps than I do. I'm always trying to minimize steps. But then what you do is you go back to Perplexity and you go for all the hyperlink sources from the most reputable and most highly trafficked websites where it's pulling these from. And then you go and you double check everything. And right there you have a working draft and blueprint for whatever piece you want to go ahead and work on. That all in all takes less than 5 minutes to do. And it's more up to date than the amount of time that you would typically need to go ahead and research. Now, I started doing this with Grok recently. Grok, I think people are really sleeping on, because Grok can actually pull not just from sources within X, but it can pull from other platforms. And
which, by the way, the X piece might be even, I would say, more important, because X is the breaking news of breaking news. Like, as things happen, it's on X.
So here's where I close with this. I told my boss at the time, and this is before chat allowed you to integrate with Bing and everything else, to pull and search from the web and stuff like that. I said, I think this was in 2022. I said that it would take at least 10 years before we had a sophisticated, accessible, reliable, real-time AI search tool that can move faster and more accurately than a person. And it happened within about a year and a half.
Yeah.
So
it's getting faster
out of the bag. The stuff is out of the bag. And I would not be surprised if, like the past decade, we had like the breakup Google and the breakup Facebook and the antitrust stuff. I could definitely see that being the case with the Democrats. And it has nothing to do with wanting to make, the playing field fair. It has nothing to do with fair play and all that stuff. It's going to do with access to control. It's all about power.
When you look at, first of all, let's just kind of address the elephant in the room.
I went so nerdy for a minute. People just got like a $120 an hour consultation from me. So there you go.
You're Merry Christmas from Brian Claus here and his good little elf Remso.
Helping so many college students cheat on their shit right now.
You forgot your hat. You forgot your hat, by the way.
I did. Sorry, I'm a bad elf.
I had that on. It looked really, really stupid for folks who were wondering before we hit record. I was like, Remso, the Santa hat or the elf? And I said, does the elf hat look stupid? And he goes, isn't that the point? Thanks, buddy. So really quick, Remso, like, first of all, elephant in the room, small L libertarians are right again, because you see this a lot where people are like, we need to regulate. The market will decide, right? The market will create solutions. Like you look at Google and Facebook and Twitter, and everybody's like, oh my God, these are monopolies. And then you fast forward like 5 years and Google's losing its share in the search market, which if you were to say 5 years ago, Google will no longer be the leading search engine, you'd probably laugh in somebody's face because Google had been the leading search engine for well over 15, 20 years at this point. And all of a sudden here comes these AI tools. And people are trying to figure out ways to leverage these AI tools, and these folks over at Perplexity, which by the way, I'm a big fan of Perplexity. I've been using it for quite a while, and I use it a lot for research, right? And it's basically replaced my search engine. I use it for answering the questions I have. So like, instead of going to Google, like, what was that one song that was blah, blah, blah? You just go to Perplexity, give the context of the song, and boom, there it is. And it's usually more in accordance to what you're actually looking for.
In the marketing space, this is I'm panicking a little bit, but a lot of people in my industry are panicking because the big thing upon the horizon is SEO will be dead by like 2028, and it will be all AIO. And whereas search engines are primarily going off of keyword search, artificial intelligence optimization and everything else for tools like Perplexity, it's all going based off problem analysis.
Yep.
And what it's doing is it's predicting based off the prompt of the question, what other challenges and what other topics of interest you would like based off what initially prompted the person. It's a lot more intuitive, which is awesome and kind of scary at the same time.
Well, and it's scary because it's unknown, right? We know how SEO works. We know what to do in order to get more clicks there. It's a science at this point. It's not even a science. It's more like a math equation. If I put this word into, for SEO, I know, based on keywords and all kind of stuff that I'm going to get X percent in return. I mean, that's usually the mindset. Whereas you look at the AIO or whatever the hell it's called, AEO, that's going to be more, I want to say it's a crapshoot, but it's going to require you to put out higher quality content. Right? Because now as an AI tool, that's where it's leveraging the information from. So it's not just going to the SEO pieces. It's starting to incorporate more contextual stuff. And that's huge. And I know for a lot of folks, it's probably scary, right? And you mentioned like the industries, like marketing, for example, definitely is, I would say it was a red light, maybe a yellow light, right? Like, let's pump the brakes a little bit. But when you look at where this is heading, it's definitely disrupting things from a tech standpoint. But this is indicative, I think, of a larger movement we're seeing and a larger transition we're seeing in the country right now. And as a populace, Remso, because as AI is changing things, as technology has allowed us to become more and more ingrained with each other's lives, and we can communicate faster than ever before, you start to see things in government also changing quickly as well. It's almost like government's now having to keep up with the news. And in this case, the news is nonstop. So you fast forward to here we are. We're recording on the 21st of December for folks playing along in the home game who are listening to us. What was that?
Christmas.
Christmas. Yes. Christmas. Yeah. Thank you for joining us live. I'm Santa.
The cartoon was where the guy's just like, it's Christmas, George. And the guy's just like, Christmas.
What show is that?
I don't fucking remember.
Okay. Thanks for derailing this, Remso. No, I'm just kidding. No, let's go towards where this all kind of manifested here this past week. And this has been the battle over the CR, the continuing resolution that was being voted on in Congress. So you have the Republican bill that was promoted. It wasn't really a full Republican bill. It was a bipartisan bill. bipartisan bill. And Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy, heads of Doge, they looked at it and they said, oh, hold on, 1,500-page bill with a lot of garbage in it. Do we want to support this? Now, this obviously got a lot of the old folks, not necessarily old folks, more the this is how things have always been done this way, folks, mad. For example, I'm going to share a video here, Remso, and some folks might recognize this person's appearance. Not trying to, stereotype, but this person definitely gives you some warning signs. This is Representative Rosa DeLauro. Now, if you're listening to this in the audio-only version, you might not recognize who this person is. If you're watching this on the YouTubes or on the X.coms, you're going to see Representative DeLauro, and she's very, very distinguishable.
Freak show, Batman.
That's the way to put it, Remso. She's the old lady who wears the owl glasses with the weird purple hair, like Justin Bieber haircut from 2011, and she's what's the word, Remso? She's different. She's unique. I don't know. Let's just listen to what she had to say, though, because she thinks that this is the beginning, not of President Trump, but of President Musk. Let's listen.
Read on a bill. And you know what? They got scared because President Musk told them, President Musk said, don't do it. Don't do it. Shut the government down. Imagine. What does he know about what?
What does he know, Remso? What does the multi-billionaire over who has started and launched half dozen successful large entities that are changing the way that we as humans interact with each other, look at the future? Yeah, what does he know?
Man, all I wanted was a government shutdown for Christmas.
I'm sorry, Remso. There's still time. Let's hope. Let's let Representative DeLauro finish, and then we can give our Christmas list to Santa Claus.
People go through is when the government shuts down. Are his employees furloughed? Hell no. Is he furloughed? No. And when you shut the government down, people don't get paid. And maybe if none of us got paid if the government shut down,
Wrong.
people on the other side of the aisle would feel differently.
Wrong.
Where we're going in this effort. We had an agreement. But this is not different from what we've experienced over the last year and a half or so. Think about it. Biden, McCarthy, deal, come together. Next day, walk away. Johnson, Schumer, deal. Next day, walk away. And now this deal, walk away from it. Who do we trust in this body? And above all, can the American people trust us? Trust us with their lives. When we had a moment, when we came to agreement as Democrats and Republicans, and then we were able to say, let's move forward. This country, one of my colleagues, I think it was Congressman Nichols.
So I just like when she was shaking her fist. You could hear the jingle of like the 17 rings that she's wearing on her right hand. Also, point of personal privilege and point of information, Connecticut. Y'all okay? Because y'all been sending this lady back to Congress for quite a bit. And I'm just going to say, I don't think the elevator goes all the way to the top floor, Remso. But this is
a lie. I'm sorry. It's like, I always get offended by this lie because I was in Virginia in 2018, 2019, when the government shut down last time.
And you lost everything, right? Everybody was running around. Flame was everywhere. Everybody's saying, we can't make ends meet. It was terrible, right?
What was hilarious was that the media kept focusing on like two types of people. One, they were focusing on low-level government employees who were encountering their first furlough, who also really didn't understand what you're dealing with. Then they were also focusing on like, migrant janitors for certain federal buildings. One, if you're a government contractor, and I think that some contractors think they work for the government, and
you don't.
They don't. But when you're on a government contract, even through government shutdowns, your contracts are approved by the fiscal year, meaning that the funding is secure, the cash is there. So worst case scenario, 3 months go by of a shutdown, which I don't think we've ever had 3 months of a shutdown. I might be wrong, but like usually
I
that's
think the
more than
longest was 38 days.
yeah, but like you're going to still get paid every
Right.
payroll. Your payroll is secure. And then for a furlough, people say that word. They don't think they understand. It used to be that government employees would get furloughed, but they'd still get payrolled, which basically meant that they couldn't negotiate raises and they couldn't do any spending. What it meant for the military for the longest time, and this always panicked my parents when this would come out, was Democrats were always pushing this idea that if you had a government furlough, that military personnel would not be paid. They would be paid to a degree of some compensation later, but they actually pushed the idea. Democrats did this. Pelosi was the one that did this. She also pushed for death panels for soldiers in 2008, which no one seems to remember. But they pushed the idea of U.S. service members not getting any money back. But they always tried to make it secure for themselves so that way federal employees could get their money. These people will always get their freaking money. This isn't about us. This isn't about us. This is about them. Whenever anyone sees a politician beg for anything, the first question they need to ask is, how does this benefit them?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what this does. It pushes through more pork, more foreign spending, more stupid stuff that I'm trying to curse less around the holidays, more stupid stuff that nobody wanted. And all Musk did with this bill was point out the BS.
Mm-hmm. Well, and by the way, like let's add to the BS, right? Back when the government shut down in 2018, it wasn't. I mean, like they put barriers at like monuments and stuff. Like we're shutting down the government, therefore you can't walk to the Washington Monument.
That was that was 2013 too. That was under
Obama.
Shit,
that's right. I'm thinking of 2013.
It was Obama. Obama did that 2013, 2014.
Yeah.
And he did that intentionally around the time of the year when you had World War II veterans coming to DC for the honor flight.
Yep.
And he did that intentionally because he wanted to say, look what Republicans did. Republicans shut down our government. Ted Cruz shut down our government.
That's right. That was 2013. 100%. Wow. That was 11 years ago. It was 11 years ago. Gross. We're getting old. Shit. All right. Also, by the way, another clip I want to just carry forward in this whole theme of President Musk. Our best friends, Remso, our best friends, Joy and Whoopi over on The View. They have, so we get, I say we, I'm using we as the right side of the political aisle. We get labeled as conspiracy theorists. Get ready for this conspiracy theory, Remso, because this one might take the cake. And by the way, folks, we are joining you live here on X today, so thank you for hopping in. If you have some thoughts on President Musk and these conspiracies, let us know down below in the comments. But let's take a listen to our good friends Whoopi and Joy from everybody's favorite TV show with the most intellectual diversity you could possibly get, The View. Let's listen.
Who is in charge? Because I've been saying it for a while.
Yes, you have.
I've been saying that I think
Say it, girl.
he's president. I do.
Well, you've been calling him vice president.
I've called him vice president. I called him president because I don't know what JD is doing. I hardly ever say. I don't remember the last time we even talked about JD.
You're right. He's planning the presidency when they get rid of Trump.
So you think it's Musk Vance?
Possible.
Hey, you know who? Stay away from the stairways. Because, people put the leg out to trip you going down the stairs. Watch out.
Remso, they're so stupid. Like, okay. Man, like we talked about this before. The F energy.
Did you pull that clip from Newsbusters?
It was from Twitter, but yes, it was from
God.
Newsbusters.
Okay, I've got fun. I got triggered for a second. Okay, I was an intern at MRC Newsbusters, and I was in the Newsbusters division, which was like 3 people. I wanted MRC business. I want MRC tech. I want MRC culture. They put me in this, and I was like, why does nobody ever want this one? And it was because you had to either watch Morning Joe all day or you had to watch The View, and then you had to watch MSNBC.
How is that not a violation of cruel and unusual punishment?
There's a reason why I quit that internship after.
That's on the level of like those guys at Facebook and Twitter who have to like sort through all the horrible things and the stuff that like once you see it you can't unsee it and it traumatizes you forever. Like the bad stuffs.
It was basically like that. People don't believe me. Google Remso Martinez Newsbusters and you'll see my author block there. And it was a lot of stuff about The View. So I was the one who had to make those clips. And it was just like, who is keeping these women employed?
The doctor's offices that put them on in their waiting rooms.
Brian, do you feel like this is projection? Like they're talking about them trying to get rid of a president and replace him with somebody else. They just did that and they refused to acknowledge it.
Well, and also like what my point was, we go back a few months ago when we were talking about that just awesome ad for Kamala Harris, the masculine ad. Remember that? And what was the energy?
Full throated endorsement.
There was a certain word we used. It was an F word, bundle of sticks energy. And that theater kid bundle of sticks mentality is carrying forward here. This sounds like a script from House of Cards, right? That Whoopi's trying to manifest here. And the reason I say that, Remso, because they have their idea of what politics is entirely derived from what they see on TV. Like Whoopi and Joy and Sunny, all those just intelligent, beautiful women from The View. This is their perspective of politics. It is the Hollywoodification. I was trying to mix Hollywoodification and Hollywoodified together, and I got Hollywoodified. Whatever. That thing, plus this theater kid bundle of sticks energy, Remso, and it creates two different Americas where you have one group of folks who are living in La La Land, no pun intended, and other folks living in the real world. This is like a hard left past La La Land. We're like in batshit crazyville. Remso, is it true though? Is Elon Musk and JD Vance getting ready to trip Trump down the stairs? Like, is this happening?
Do they forget that he's South African?
Okay, thank you. I was going to cover that as we got towards the end of this. Oh, by the way, he can't even ever be president because, our Constitution. But like the lack of civics and understanding of our political process, it just and the fact, Remso, to your point, there are people who do watch The View, right? Not just the doctor's offices, but there are people who unironically watch The View, and that's where they get their politics from, buddy.
Yeah.
How's that make you feel?
Dude, I wish that when I was forced to watch it, kind of like, that guy from, Clockwork Orange, who had like his eyes like this,
Bird Box.
Yeah, like I don't even think Meghan McCain was on the show because at least there was something good to look at when she was on. I was just having to stare at Joy Behar talk about how Trump is a threat to our democracy. It was in 2016, no less. It was in 2016 when I had to do that. But it used to be liberals boasted about getting their news from like Stephen Colbert and Jon Stewart.
Yep.
They
Oliver.
They used to actually boast that that's where they got their news from.
Yep.
And it's like they always say that Republicans are addicted to Fox News, and it's like, yeah, that might be true for the boomers. I won't argue that, but it's like your average Republican is probably getting better sourced information, news and commentary than your average Democrat.
Well, and by the way, the studies have shown this. If you were to ask your average Democrat to sit them down and say, okay, this is Bob. You know nothing about Bob other than Bob is a Republican conservative. Tell me what Bob believes. And that person has no idea. They think he's a racist, that he's a sexist, that he's a homophobe. He wants a dictator to take over America. Like, they will go through and they will create this characterization of the worst case version of Bob the conservative, right? And then you do the opposite. You take Representative, whatever her name is, purple-haired freak lady, and you put her on the screen and you say, look at this lady. This lady's name is, what was it? Laura? I don't know. Connecticut. Get your shit together.
This woman is your friend. She fights for you.
She definitely looks like she fights, just not for you. Probably for like the last witch's potion at the supermarket.
She's like a sexy protecting the dark crystal.
She's evil Marianne Williamson. But when you look at her and you say
forces,
very dark. And you ask the Republican or the conservative guy to say, what does this person believe? Right? They will obviously touch on some of those more like sensational things, but they'll probably give the benefit, like, hey, they probably believe in, the idea of, kids should be able to choose their gender, or at the very least, it's a conversation that the government shouldn't be controlling. They believe in, trying what?
Communism.
That's the answer. It's all
I
communism.
just jump to the end now. I don't fuck around anymore. I'm like, this person believes in communism.
But like the studies have shown, Remso, that your conservatives can, like, within 70 to 80% accuracy, identify what the left believes, and then you ask the left to do the same thing, and they have no idea. They cannot articulate a single thing in any sincerity or seriousness that actually represents what libertarians, moderates, conservatives, Republicans, that they believe. And I just listened to a debate, and I do, here's my view. My view, punishment, I guess, is I listen to Reason's Roundtable unironically every week, just because I want to hear what the greater ethos of mainstream, very loosely saying that.
Idiots these days?
What?
How are the useful idiots these days?
They're okay. They're doing their thing. I think specifically Matt Welch and Nick Gillespie are going to start to wake up a little bit more based on what they're seeing from the pushback that they've been getting for just not jumping on board with Kamala / not instinctually having some knee-jerk reaction to hate Trump. There was a debate with, it was Nick Gillespie and Matt Welch from Reason versus Sarah Longwell and gentleman's name who's escaping me from the Bulwark. So you knew it was going to be good, right? And the idea was, is it okay to not pick sides in politics, right? And to hear like Nick and Matt trying to be, I don't say fence sitters, but more or less fence sitters, right? And Nick was like saying, like, yeah, I was happy when Trump won. I was hoping though beforehand that was going to be Kamala to win, and then a Republican Congress was able to hold her in account. Whatever. I unironically though listened to the Reason Roundtable because I want to get an understanding of where folks are coming from. Because at the end of the day, I'm not just selling liberty or trying to help people sell liberty. You're also selling relative to who else is selling. Like there's this really backwards notion that we can just feature and benefit people to death, right? Like we can just say, oh, look at how great liberty is or how great X, Y, and Z is. And you just give them the facts and figures list and then say, well, that wins, right? They're going to buy. And that's not the case because you have other people who are also selling, but they're selling more on emotion. And when I hear these arguments, especially the folks from the more Democratic left, they are all rooted in emotion, right? Rooted in fear, but also rooted in control, Remso. And when they start to lose control, this is where I start to see some of the cracks in the narratives, some of the cracks in the armor, if you will. And we're seeing this no more visibly than the corporate media. I mentioned Reason. I mean, I'm not going to really put Reason in a corporate media bucket.
I'll put a former employer of mine in that bucket. I worked for a nonprofit in Wisconsin. It was a conservative nonprofit, and they were very much of the mindset of because they had a C4 advocacy component, and they had they had a lobbyist for everything. So like, well, they weren't just researching; they were also trying to move things aside. And I always wondered why they opposed the Overton window theory. But it was never about winning. It was never about actually advancing things that could create actual measurable impact. How they did it, and they'd probably disagree with me, but they're also stupid, so I could go out with that. But it's like, we don't actually push fights we know we will have to fight on. What we do is we push fights where there is no opponent, and we create our own obstacles. And then what we do is we go for the most low-hanging fruit votes, and we try and get those people in there, and we emphasize, if you do this, you could paint it as a 100% you victory. And it was almost always on like leftist causes too.
Mm-hmm.
And by leftist causes, I'm not just talking about, like the castration of children. They wouldn't jump into that yet. But, it was for like what I would call like the low hanging things, which was criminal justice reform, which was licensure reform, all things that I do say matter.
Yep.
But they only mattered to certain Republicans because they needed victories. And while I'm glad that certain things did happen on all those fronts, because a push for liberty, even by an inch, is still a victory, I would say that. It was always, why do we only focus on that? And why do we never take up the fights worth fighting? And it's this mentality of like, if I demand nothing and they give me something, I can change the length of the goalpost and I can kind of make up history in that vacuum of what actually happened.
Yes.
And that is where I see a lot of these people sitting. They don't actually fight for the things where there is opposition. They don't take hard fights. And it's not because the odds are against them. It's because they would rather just be seen as the useful, irate minority that gets the stuff that there wasn't much of a fight on to begin with than to ever put efforts into it, much like the Libertarian Party.
Yeah, well, and right there, right. This goes to something I've been I've been bitching and moaning about for 5 years now at this point, and that is like, know your lane. If you're a salesperson, be the salesperson. If you're the solutions engineer, you're the tech and specs person, be the tech and specs person. Like if you get off on reading your favorite economics book, more power to you. But like that's not sales. That just that's not sales. Sales is leading with value, leading with a solution to a problem. Like there's oh God, okay, do I do that? Yeah, there's an idiot in one of these Facebook groups, and I exist in, I guess I'm there, and they were like, "What's the point of sales anymore? I can just go online and find anything I want to find without having to talk to a stupid snake oil salesperson." And I'm like, so you're just letting your buying behavior based entirely on marketing? Which is fine. Like if you want to base it all on marketing, that's fine. But then that means that all your decisions are going to be based on which marketing appeal triggered your emotional reactions the most. Okay, if that's your argument how you're going to make a sale, go for it. But what I've seen, and again, going back to the real life when sales is important, because it is, everything's sales. You're selling yourself, an idea, a product, a service, a politics, whatever it may be. If you don't know how to convey the value of your solution and relative that to the competition, right? You are a sitting duck waiting to be plucked out of the sky by your competition. And Remso, this is no more visible than what's happening right now with the corporate media. They are scared. Folks like Dave Smith and Robbie the Fire Bernstein over on Part of the Problem call this gentleman their favorite of favorite little piggies. This is Brian Stelter and former White House staffer Jim Acosta lamenting at the changing media landscape here. Let's take a listen.
To Dan Crenshaw's point, Elon Musk is spreading fake news. On this, he is fake news.
And he relies on people to reply to him and tell him what's up. He says, you are the media now. That's his message on X. And yet that really leaves a lot to be desired.
Yeah, to Dan.
It leaves a lot to be desired, says Brian Stelter, who I think likes hearing himself talk even more than Jim Acosta does. Remso, the media ecosystem has changed. It has changed for the better. Is it because of President Musk?
I can certainly say that had Elon Musk not bought Twitter and turned it into X, that we would be having a very different political outcome. And it is primarily because Democrats cannot win on what they do.
Yep.
Democrats can only win on what they inhibit their competition to do, because they're so accustomed to shaping the landscape. They control the narratives, they control the access, they have the appeal to the authority, which they all own the authority. So when you shape the environment, you don't have to fight as much. By allowing us to actually compete in a fair playing ground of ideas, what it did was it forced them to actually fight fire with fire. There were two X accounts. One was, I think, called Kamala Lies, and the other one was Team Kamala. Team Kamala was going after, all of Trump's misinformation. They were going after all the gas. It was basically, this is the account which was entirely negative. And they spent millions of dollars on that account. And they had a team of over 30 people that were full-time employees that were running that account, and they were covering fire for Kamala and drawing fire to Trump. Then what you had for the Kamala Lies X account was, it was put together by four Republican social media strategists who did it themselves. Nobody told them to. They were all powered by patriotism and large amounts of Zen. And they went ahead and they grew an account that was faster and more effective than what the paid Democrats had built themselves. And what it showed is that when you're having to compete off ideas, if you're having to compete off convincing people, if you're having to compete in a fair way, Democrats lose because their policies are not good for general people. They're not good for the country at large. They are really the party that is explicitly owned by corporate interests.
Yep.
And I'll even dare say that their agenda is anti-human. It's an anti-human agenda. And when people see that and they have to choose, they choose. One, because the outcome chose that. They chose Trump. But I want to point out, and I'm really interested to see what the studies will show in the coming months, how many first-time Trump voters, when they actually got to see everything laid out for them across the board, when they actually just got to look with their eyes and assess what their brains told them versus what the media mechanisms and even useful idiots like The View would say, how many of them were like, yeah, screw it, I'm going for Trump? I think that will say more than anything else.
Well, and buddy, elephant in the room again, right? Like the narrative that has been promoted for decades at this point by the corporate interests, it's almost always based on a lie. And, sunlight is always the best disinfectant. And there's one gentleman over on CNN, Remso, who has been the biggest, brightest flashlight to shine said sunlight on all the just grossness and the lies of the corporate media. And that is our buddy who we were talking about last week, who is getting all the good looks there from the leftist panelist females on his left and right. That's right. Yeah, our good buddy Scott Jennings. He was just over here and actually getting, of all people, Trump's former lawyer Michael Cohen to agree with him. Let's go ahead and take a listen. Where not only does he talk about, and again, these narratives of like Trump's going to be the worst thing ever. He's going to sue all of his political opponents. Let's listen. And also, let's listen to how Scott addresses these narratives. Let's take a peek.
Are you worried at all about this, Scott? Just where it could go, not just the Donald Trump of it all, but I mean, if he's creating precedent, it's for everyone.
Well, when you introduced Michael, you used the word narratives, and I think the reasons Republicans are cheering on this muscular attitude from Trump and pushing back against some of this is because Republicans feel like constantly media organizations, especially in the throes of campaigns, work overtime to create false narratives that may shape the contours of the election. Look what happened when this poll came out in Iowa. The entire English-speaking world was talking about the gold standard pollster, and Harris has this momentum. And ultimately what we were told was complete garbage. And if you talk to pollsters at the time, they would have told you, this is not real. This methodology is not good anymore. But that's not what people chose to run with because it fit what most people in the press wanted the narrative to be. So he's pushing back on that. I don't frankly have a problem with it. And if they capitulate, it's because they don't want to go through the discovery and what that might show.
I hate to say it, but Scott is actually right about this one. I hate to say it because Scott and I very rarely agree on anything. He's right. He's right. He's right about this in the fact that sloppy journalism, sloppy polling. And what they did,
you get a bad poll. Are you supposed to sue the pollster now?
It's not about the poll. It's not about the poll. But look what happened. It came out from a person who has a lot of credibility. Virtually every single panel I was on for the last week of the campaign led with, well, look at this poll out of Iowa. So it wasn't the poll. It's the second, third, and fourth order narrative.
Listen. The number. I'm sorry.
And it's just so what?
You know what I'm so tired of, Scott? The #1 cable news network, Fox News. The number 1 paper by circulation, the Wall Street Journal. Number 3 paper by circulation, the New York Post. Number 1 person on the radio, Sean Hannity. The number 1 person on the podcast, Joe Rogan. All of these people are Trump supporters. What media are you talking about that's anti-Trump?
You're not familiar with the anti-Trump media?
You're not familiar with the fact that you guys control for everything from
Oh, the right wing controls the media now.
And this is where it's going, right? It's gaslighting. We've talked about this a lot on the show before. Gaslighting. That's what she's doing. I don't know who this lady is, but she's gaslighting to pretend as though, dude, I think I got rid of them all. Back in CPAC in like 2011, 2012, I grabbed a bunch of bumper stickers, and one of them was, "I don't believe the liberal media," right? I still had that. I think it's actually at home. I put it on a little like old computer that's like dead and gone from yesteryear, and my daughter just likes to play with it to send emails to Grandpa to come visit. And I think I put the sticker on that, so just, LOL, because my brainwash. It's subtle brainwashing for the daughter. I'm joking, folks. I'm not brainwashing my daughter, or am I? But like the fact that they can sit there and this chick with a smile and a condescending smirk and laugh be like, "Scott, I don't know what you're talking about. You think that you're not Republican, your Republicans aren't the media? You control everything." Well, maybe, sweetheart, it's because you guys have done such a horrible job that people are finally starting to say no. And she hit this right at the very end, Remso. You guys control everything from blah to podcasts, and the podcast, right? She put that third, I think, on purpose, because if she led with podcasts, she would have to be addressing the biggest of elephants in the smallest of rooms. And that is the only reason that podcasts have become a go-to source for news and information, especially since 2019. And everybody knows the reason why, because that was the one area, the one medium that you could sit down in front of a microphone and as a journalist, as a commentator, speak the truth about the COVID insanity. You could point out the government lies. You could point out the government half-truths. You could point out the government insanity, the destruction of the lockdowns. You could question the science, because science is able to be questioned, folks. And that's where people started to go. That's why Joe Rogan became the number 1 podcast. That's why folks started to go in droves away from the corporate media to these podcast entities to start getting their information. And they hate it. They hate the fact that they no longer control the microphone. They no longer control the where the information is being disseminated. And it makes people like her terrified. It makes people like Abby Phillips terrified, because they now have to stop pretending and leading with the gaslighting and leading with the narrative and actually talk about what's happening. And if they don't, people are voting with their views and going elsewhere.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's and I mean, what did they try and do? The media has tried to destroy Joe Rogan. CNN of all networks.
They made him look gray.
They tried to do that. What? They spread the lie that he was taking horse dewormer. Just look at what they did. They went ahead and said that Parler, which is suddenly having a new resurgence under new ownership, they said that was a domestic terrorism haven online. It was why I was concerned with dodging a federal subpoena for close to a year, because they tried saying that they were going to drag all current and former employees before a House Oversight and Reform Committee, and that one of the ranking members on that committee at the time said that we were in the pockets of Russian oligarchs. Brian Stelter was the one that said that it was tantamount to domestic terrorism. They do this all the time. And let's name it: CNN, MSNBC, Reuters, the BBC,
AP News,
NPR, which is state-funded liberal media. Sky, Vice, you name Vox, Slate, Al Jazeera, you name them. And it's like, who do we have? We have podcasters. They're mad because they lost.
Yes.
They didn't just lose the narrative, but they lost viewership and they lost money. I think Joy Behar is actually going to have to take a pay cut because they blamed her for decreasing ratings.
What's her name? Rachel Maddow, MSNBC. She was getting paid $25 million a year to sit there as the female iteration of Mark Cuban and like rant and rave about how dangerous Republicans are. Only for, she turned into like the super clip of super clips over the past like 4 years because of how wrong she was.
She should have been sued.
Yes.
Sued out of existence for pushing the fake Russia hoax Steele dossier, which she herself said she had physical copies of.
Yep.
And I think it was her network that said, that those documents are not substantiated. They're not real. You cannot say that, because then you also put us in the position of how did you acquire those?
Well, and this is like what happened with George Stephanopoulos. What's his name? Yeah, what is it?
George Stephanopoulos.
Stephanopoulos. I unintentionally, I swear to God, I didn't call him George Snuffleupagus to be a dick. His name escaped me, and I apparently thought he was the big brown elephant from Sesame Street. He just got sued $15 million. Well, him and ABC, because they were going on air saying that Trump was found guilty of rape. You can't do that. Why? Because he wasn't. And this is the thing right here. Like, I hear this whole conversation of this video we just watched here with Scott on CNN. It was based around this whole idea of like how scary Trump suing Ann Seltzer, the pollster. You are allowed to, as a civil human, like a civil, a civilian. There we go. And that's the word. You're allowed to sue people. And yes, there's defamation. There's defamation per se. Obviously, there's a lot of gray area there. But when you are making overt lies, yes, you are putting yourself in a position to be found, or at the very least to be sued or be found guilty of libel, of defamation. And this is exactly why the left is losing their ever-loving minds, Remso. Because if you're not able to control the narrative, you can't control the media. You can no longer control the social media. You can no longer control the bureaucracies. You can no longer, again, all these pieces of control slipping away. It leads to people floundering. They're like, what do I do next? Where can we find control again? And the problem is they keep on going back to the old tried and true playbook of just, we'll continue to gaslight and lie. And the problem is people are done with that. So before we go to our final thoughts today, I just want to do a quick shout out to our phenomenal studio sponsor, Cardio Miracle. I'm not playing an ad for them today because I just had Lori Martin Gregory on the show last week, and then here airing right after Christmas is going to be my conversation with Josh Hewlett, son of John Hewlett, the CEO and founder of Cardio Miracle. The first episode, we talked more about the nitty gritty of Cardio Miracle and just why it's so awesome. The second was actually talking with Josh and his story of personal weight loss. I didn't realize that he and I basically have the same story, just a little tweaks. He also lost 180 pounds. His was after he was a power lifter and was like 470. I was just a fat kid and I was 380. So like to see that we had very similar stories and talking about the importance of focusing on your health and all that jazz. So I'm just saying all that. I'm not doing a special promotion for Cardio Miracle today, rather than just saying go watch those episodes. Great conversation with Lori. She's an all-star. And then Josh is just a salt of the earth, good human being. And also, as you can see right there, we got Cardio Miracle over my shoulder. Scan that little QR code and you'll get 15% off your order. Remso, we are going to go ahead and put a pin into today's conversation. But before we do, I'd like to ask you to do us a favor, and that is bring us home. What are your final thoughts today?
Man, did you see the new Superman trailer?
I did. I love me some Henry Cavill, whatever his last name is pronounced.
Well, now we've got David Cornsweet as I think that's how you pronounce his name. I'm not saying that to be me. I literally just don't know how to pronounce his name either. We've got a new Superman, and in that movie,
that wasn't him. That wasn't Henry. What?
That was not Henry.
What?
Could you tell by the lack of muscle definition on this guy?
I don't know.
Here you have.
I don't pay attention to dudes' jacked arms like you do, Remso.
Man, it's Calville for life. But like you've got Superman in his bright costume, truth, justice, in the American way. Superman is still a straight white male American.
What?
He's kissing Lois Lane, who's the pretty love interest, and it's simple and it's not woke. And America's back. Yep. Okay, Trump is back. Superman is back. We haven't had a Superman movie since forever. We're like, things are good. Like, this is gonna be a great Christmas.
Merry Christmas, Remso.
Merry Christmas, Brian.
I'll end with two things. One, Scott Jennings is just like, in my head, I've always viewed him as the Kentucky version of our good buddy Kenny Cody from Tennessee. Like Kenny's got this Southern drawl a little bit, and he's like very laid back. But you get Kenny going, and Kenny will let the fire rain down. And Scott just he gives me Kenny Cody vibes. So Kenny, if you're listening today, keep it up. I could easily see you being on one of those panels one day and making all the leftists cry. Number two, in my personal life, I had a lot of fun. Went to go see Jeff R. Curry last night here in Indy. Oh my God. If you have not heard Jeff's stand-up work yet, just go on to like Facebook or TikTok or wherever it is you get your short videos and just look up some of his stand-up. He is so funny. His crowd work is incredible. Had a great time. And yeah, you know what was great, Remso, is seeing some of the political jokes starting to come out, like the against the Democrats. I won't go into the details of some of the jokes, but, making fun of Joe Biden and his Roomba brain and Kamala Harris and that noises that she would make. You start to see that coming from the comedians in, Indy's a blue city in a red state, and people laughing in the crowd, despite, there's one very obvious a gay couple that was in front of me in the row, and there was an LGBT joke, and they were roaring laughing. And I kind of sat there and I was like, damn, things have been changing, and for the better. I think my wish. I did a whole episode on my Christmas wish list to Liberty Santa. If there's one wish, it's for world peace. No, obviously, but like, I wish and I pray that we are going to continue to go back towards a society that we are allowed to enjoy each other's companies, even when we don't agree. We can laugh and we can poke fun at where we have silliness, and at the very least, Remso, we can start to rebuild some sense of national identity and hopefully around some common interests. So I am leaving this Christmas season. I'm leaving this year with a lot of optimism, candidly. And, I know we didn't get the chance yet to do our year in review. I think we're going to put that in for 2025. We'll go back and look at 2024 with a very large microscope and just kind of look at some of the more important topics of the year. But, going into where I think we are in 2024, going into 2025, I feel cautiously optimistic. So if you agree, if you feel that we are on the way up, let us know down below in the comments. If you're watching us here on YouTube, thank you for joining us. By the way, I don't know what the hell's been happening on YouTube, but we are crushing it right now. We've gained about 2,500 subscribers in the past 2 or 3 days. So we are, as we're recording today, Remso, we might already hit 10,000 subscribers over there. So yeah, right. If you haven't had the chance yet, head to the YouTubes, hit that subscribe button. We're on Rumble, we're on Twitter, we're on Facebook, wherever it is you consume your podcast or your video content. I appreciate your love and support. And as always, you can find yours truly at B Nichols Liberty, Twitter, Facebook, wherever it is you go to your social medias. And you can find our good buddy Remso Martinez over on Twitter, Facebook. Hey Remso, Instagram, go Remso. Remso, anything you want to say before we go ahead and say goodbye?
Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to my friend. I will be sending your hat in the mail. Please make sure you wear it next time. And other than that, Remso, I love you, buddy. Thanks for being just one of my favorite human beings and easily one of my very bestest of best friends. You're just a great dude. And to you, my amazing friends here who've been joining us for, oh my goodness, we're going on 8 years. That's just fucking wild. 8 years of the Brian Nichols Show. Thank you. We love you. We appreciate all your love and support. I appreciate you supporting our sponsors because that's how we keep the lights on. And with that, please go home, enjoy your Christmas, enjoy your New Year. And with that being said, we'll talk to you next year. It's Brian Nichols signing off for Remso Martinez. See ya.
Thanks for listening to The Brian Nichols Show. Find more episodes at briannicholsshow.com.
Hey folks, I want to take a moment to talk about something that has truly changed my life, and that is Cardio Miracle, our incredible studio sponsor. Now, I'll be honest, when I first heard about Cardio Miracle and their claims about improving heart health, I was skeptical. But after using it for just about 2 months, I was absolutely blown away by the results. First, my blood pressure went from being consistently around 140/90 to a much more healthier and manageable 120/80. And my resting heart rate dropped from the low 70s to the high 50s. And I couldn't believe it. But the benefits didn't stop there. I started sleeping better, and I felt more energized at the gym, and my heart felt the best it's felt in years. And it's not just me. Hundreds of you, our amazing listeners, have reached out to share your own incredible experiences with Cardio Miracle. So, what is Cardio Miracle? And how does it work? It's a carefully crafted supplement that harnesses the power of nitric oxide to support optimal heart function. So, by increasing nitric oxide levels in your blood, Cardio Miracle helps relax your blood vessels, improve circulation, and it protects your heart from damage. It's like giving your heart the support it needs to function at its best. And here's the best part. We've got an exclusive offer just for you, our loyal listeners here at The Brian Nichols Show. When you head over to cardiomiracle.com and use code TBNS at checkout, you'll get an extra 15% discount on your order. Plus, with their 100% money-back guarantee, you've got nothing to lose and everything to gain. So, if you're ready to take control of your heart health and experience the life-changing benefits of Cardio Miracle for yourself, just click the link in the show notes or video description. Trust me, your heart will thank you. And don't wait another day to prioritize your health. Join the tens of thousands of folks who have already discovered the Cardio Miracle difference. Head to cardiomiracle.com now and use code TBNS for 15% off your order. Your journey to a happier and healthier heart starts today. And now, let's get back to the show.